So I'm Chris Morley. I'm a radiologist. Co-founded this company, Medivis, almost 10 years ago, 9 years ago. It was when the first generation of these AR headsets were coming out. We got our hands on it. We had a few $1,000s figuring out how do you get DICOM data into this thing. And then it was the thought experiment. If this is version 1 of this stuff, where is this going to go? Anticipating, of course, we're not particularly excited about headsets, but smart glasses being the inevitable future of this, where this is going, digital loops, a common vision that I think a lot of us share. Just some of the macro trends that are in favor of this. The publications are incredible. The research work is truly amazing. In a lot of ways, we're really a translational research shop, having a great relationship with the FDA, building that relationship, and then bring products to market that can take advantage of all the research that's happening. And then what's happening on the hardware side is tremendous. We've been working with Meta and Apple and Google and Microsoft for a number of years now. Kind of figuratively, we're like the tugboat pulling them into this use case. They're making this thing, they don't really know what it should be used for, and they're slowly understanding that this is the killer use case, is at the point of care to deliver better care. And so, now that, of course, this is converging head-on with artificial intelligence. So again, inevitability around this idea that you're going to have a surgical pilot. It's going to be able to see everything that you're doing. It's going to know the software intimately. You're going to be able to talk and communicate with this guidance system in a way that's never been possible before. Everything I'm going to show going forward is really kudos to our technical team. We're about a 25-person team overall. These are the core guys. They're folks that have dedicated their lives to AI and AR in surgery. They're coming from amazing places. Hopkins and Zurich have dedicated PhD computer science tracks where you can dedicate your life to this space. And something special stuff happens when you can get even these 7 people in the same room together and you accumulate tens of thousands of hours working on some of these technical problems. And I think in a nutshell, we have tremendous respect for the entire field. We're students of the game. We research the history of this stuff. These systems are amazing. They're so reliable. Everyone uses them every day. Safety, efficiency, reimbursement is all figured out. We also do think that in some respects they've plateaued. As far as looking where they were 10 years ago to today, this is happening with the explosion of AI and AR. And we think there's an advantage there to adopt some of these emerging trends and embed it and just rethink some of even philosophically, the way that navigation is currently positioned, where everything is driven by the implants. But I think the user experience and the premium offering could be like a new navigation system, much lower price point, much more nimble, could work in an ASC setting, can integrate these things and be AI, AR native. And that's essentially what we're working on. This is a Rolodex of footage. This is just showing the platform in use. And I think what's key about this, I'm going to say it a few times, this is a conventional navigation system at baseline, and it could do so much more, right? So what you're seeing here is the first-person view through the headset. The fidelity of the visuals is really amazing. The user experience when all of this is happening at 60 frames per second. In short, we're ingesting all this data. All these models, for example, that's all automatic segmentation. This is taking, you get beautiful results with even just pixel perfect labeling. We use med students, it's our horsepower of pixel perfect labeling all of the data. So we just have automatic segmentation is a big category for this. That comes in 2 flavors that I'll speak to. We're doing this across specialties. I'm showing this to you at a spine conference just because we're looking at this broadly. And we do have a lot of commonalities across the different use cases. Spine is literally, figuratively, the backbone of what we're building, but all these things are generally the same. What makes something unique is a unique model, a unique tracking algorithm, a unique adapter that we're going to put on a tool that everybody's already using ubiquitously. This is AI, right? Automatic segmentation. We train a unique model. I'm standing at the foot of the bed. I look down. Each generation of this, it's going to improve. These aren't going to be headsets. They're going to be smart glasses. A lot of, I think also what you're alluding to is just user preferences, which is key. That's something we're drilling into tremendously. How much data do you want to show? And actually, let me just show you a little bit about this. Speaking to the common workflow again, how do you ingest the data? How do you see what matters? How do you generate valuable data? This is where, like, I'll show you some examples of this where, we can sparsely sample the spine with, a couple fluoro shots and output a synthetic CT. All these ideas, like, these aren't secret ideas anymore. There's open source libraries doing this stuff. It's just integrating all of it. Then, of course, how do we map the data to the anatomy? At this point, we have 7 different ways that we could register the data. It depends on, the specialty of the procedure, the workflow, the surgeon's preference, again. How do we know where to go? Track the tools. Our strategy there is basically this is an open system. We have adapters. We call it SpineLink, effectively similar to NavLock. We have our own tools as well. We are embedding in experts. So to your point around how we're doing that, it's really, really interesting. We have it. You could pick your model. We've integrated all of them. This is basically like an MCP for the operating room where the best results currently, thus far, Gemini Pro 3 was the best model that we've seen. It took us two days to integrate that. So now it knows all the features in our navigation system, and it knows spoken word. It can speak in any language. That gets really interesting, right? Because then you start to think about like some of these things that we use a rep for when you could just talk to the guidance system. So this is where we're at now. We got our initial clearance in 2020. We got spine and cranial. We're the first company in history to get clearance for augmented reality guidance in neurosurgery. That is a month ago. We're going to announce that probably next week or something. But yeah, this is the year where we basically finally got these clearances, and now we're going to start playing the game. And of course, we have a lot of work to do. We're long-term thinkers in this space. I'll put it that way. Just information architecture-wise, this is how we've organized stuff. Really seven parents of how everything is organized. How do we load data in, right? So this is CT, MRI, ultrasound, PET, whatever you want. It's live feeds. It's anything from scopes. A lot of these scopes, like an Orbi, for instance, I saw it out there, that's a stereoscopic feed being projected onto a flat monitor, and then we put those, the polarization glasses on. But you could take the raw stereo feed and you could stream that to a stereoscopic display. In my opinion, that makes a lot more sense. And of course, we want to do multimodal fusion of all of this. This is effectively just a single data cube, and we want to populate this with all the data that we do have, and then I just want to see just what I want to see. I don't want to see the signal to noise needs to be extremely high. That's where the value is extracted. Planning is, again, like a ubiquitous category. Segmentation, there's automatic segmentation, interactive. We can ingest any data set of any kind. We can segment hundreds of structures. And then if there is something unique, if you want to be able to segment the nerve roots on the MRI, fuse that with the CT, you could do that with a single click. Because we've integrated it, again, some of these foundational models like segment anything, we fine-tune it on medical imaging data, we bed it into the app, and now we've medicalized these foundational models. Targets, trajectories, cutting guides, implant planning, whatever it is, that's all in there. Devices is where it gets interesting, like our strategy or really philosophically around how to integrate with stuff and build partnerships. This is going to be a drop-down. Every major tech company is going to come out with smart glasses of all different varieties. People are going to have their favorite one. They're going to be able to pick. Like, there's a fork in the road with the strategy here. There's some people that are making their own hardware, putting a lot of capital into that. There are advantages to doing that. Of course there are. But we are going the other way. We're anticipating that the R&D of these technology companies is so incredible. We're talking billions of dollars year over year to improve the hardware technology. That's going to be tough to beat. So I think that's our strategy there. We can play ball with ultrasounds, robotic arms. Effectively, right? It's just telling the robotic arm a 3D position in space where to go. Tools, you just select whatever we're going to need for the case. We could hard code this. If this is a case I'm doing over and over again, a single click preset button, these are the tools that I need, right? Registration, again, I said we have a lot of ways to do that. This is where the user preferences come in, navigate tab, right? Like, and I'll show you what I mean by this, but like, there's all the options. You have the data overlaid directly onto the field. Some people like that. Some people do not. It's in their way. Okay, great. You have another option. It's called detach mode. The data is going to float above the field. It's registered, but it's abstracted up, right? Then do you want to see the raw DICOM data? Some people find that too noisy. Do you want to see the AI segmentations? Sure. Do you want to see, do you feel like planning is worth doing? Then sure, yeah, we'll put your plans in there. Do you think that you would rather just live plan and you don't want to plan at all? That's fine too, whatever you want to do. There's a lot of flexibility there. And so the Navigate tab, you could think of it as where we save the surgeon's preferences of how they want to use the data, what they want to see, where they want to see it, right? The last thing is what we're alluding to is what we call Maya. It's the Medivis AI agent, and that's where we have integrated all these foundational models. It's really exciting stuff, and it feels inevitable, again, when you can just talk to your guidance system. This is the hardware that we currently use. We use a hybrid tracking philosophy. Again, what that allows us to do, design philosophy-wise, is you can do all of this that I'm describing without augmented reality entirely. If that's not for you, don't worry about it. This can do everything that Stealth or some of these incredible incumbent companies have built. But we do think that AR is an incredible tip of the spear, for folks that are interested in this, and it's going to evolve very, very quickly. These are the tools. It's a single tray that we're talking about. And again, I think getting into some of the visuals that I share, side by side, I think some people are going to want this. Some people are not going to want this. That's fine. We're interested in the folks that see where this is going to go. And I think, again, because now that I've shared the ways that we're thinking about this is detached mode floating above with just the AI segmented models and the preoperative plan, right? You could plan on the pre-op CT, you could fuse it with the intraop CT. This is situated view. Now, all your plan is now registered to the field. Hand menu, how am I going to interact with the data when I'm sterile? We have AI hand tracking. That's another area where AI comes into play. You just toggle whatever you want. Voice commands, toggle. How do I make things bigger? How do I move it around? You just use this. This is a left mouse click. I'm just going to close my fingers and grab it and move it around. I think the ergonomic benefit of this stuff is real. When you're looking at a 1080p monitor that's 14 feet away, that's where I think this will get really interesting. MIS, I think, is where this really excels. Again, user preference, it's dealer's pick here, whatever you want. Do you want to see nothing? Do you want to see just the tracking information? In this case, the turning green here, the acceptance criteria is 1 millimeter of Euclidean error, 1 degree of angular error. That means green, right? And again, we're just toggling through the different ways that you could do this. This is detached mode. This is situated view. Basically, there's a kind of a bimodal distribution of this stuff, but generally, we're finding for MIS cases, people do find a lot of value in the situated view. For open cases, they kind of like it abstracted up. And there's exceptions to what I just said. It's what people prefer. We are doing a lot of work on the intervention radiology side. This is cases with Dr. Morris up at Mayo Clinic. He does a lot of crazy stuff. A lot of it is palliative. A lot of it is palliative ablations, palliative cement, reconstruction, stabilizing stuff. This is also where we're doing a lot of work where this is a Venn diagram thinking structure of the AR-enabled human and the robots, and they overlap in the middle of the Venn diagram, and these things can work collaboratively. So we're doing a lot of work on that front where these things are combined, actually. A lot of qualitative feedback from there that it's actually very helpful. Will everybody think it's helpful? Probably not, but that's fine, right? So at this point, we announced our clearance, 5 months ago maybe. We're at a handful of institutions. We've done dozens of cases, right? So not a lot, but we're getting there. I think next year will be a breakout year for us. We'll start doing this much more regularly. We've been iterating like crazy on the first, call it like 4 dozen, we're approaching 50 cases. The feedback's been incredible. We're students of this, integrating everyone's feedback. That's why we're excited to just talk and present. Like if folks are interested in this, they want to work with a really sound technical team, folks that are open-minded about where this is going to go, please reach out to us. Other stuff that we're working on, just basic stuff. I have a basic fluoro machine. I'm in an ASC setting. Can I use this to do navigation? Sure. We just take some static fluoro shots. We put a single fiducial on the patient's skin. As long as that fiducial is in the fluoro shots you acquired, we could navigate off of that, right? So then this is a good building block to where we're going with intraoperative synthetic CT, right? So now how could I take those 4 fluoro shots or the preoperative MRI and make a synthetic CT, right? And I'm also skeptical of this as a radiologist. Like here we go inventing data, right? Synthetic data. But I have been really impressed by the results. So we're talking about DICE scores of over 95%. What you see here is the real pixels are white, and the the estimate or the synthetic data is green. So is it absolutely pixel perfect yet? No, it's not. But it's really good. It's enough to be very provocative and get people thinking about like, oh wow, what if we did 5 fluoro shots? What if we just trained it in a different way? What if we, instead of using 20,000 data sets, we did 40,000? Like, so people are going to need to have their own continuum of them trusting a system like this. That's fine. Again, we're thinking about this long term. And I think once people build trust with a system like this, they're going to see that this idea of synthetic data is kind of inevitable, and then we're going to be able to start the great migration of some of these routine cases like single level stuff to an ASC setting and places where at least the payers that I speak with are excited about being able to move some things to that care setting. And so again, like, you know, this is some of the R&D that we're doing, more R&D that I share with you because it's very exciting. What you see here is taking a single ultrasound frame. I'm a body radiologist, so I love ultrasound. I think it's super underutilized in general. Single ultrasound frame, I define a region of interest, and then I'm going to just use the ultrasound like a paintbrush, and I'm going to paint in the data and just do a 3D reconstruction. I'm going to build the bony cortices, the surface anatomy, and now I'm going to register my pre-op data with the surface that I acquired. No radiation needed at all, right? So we're actively like merging this into our commercial product now. But it's quite exciting, I think. And again, that's why, you know, we're thinking multi-specialty with this. Spine is, of course, key. In a lot of ways, spine is the most complicated, the most heterogeneous of all the fields that we've seen. So, you know, a lot of respect for all the different techniques and ideas. This is a demo that I just filmed like 5 minutes ago outside on the table. You guys are welcome to come by and try this yourself. There's no replacement for seeing it with your own eyes. Here's the situated view. You could toggle whatever the data. I want to see the raw data, the segmented models, the screws. Great. I want to see it abstracted up. That's great too. You could just grab it, manipulate it, look at it from every possible angle. You could put the data right where you want. The idea of virtual monitors, this is a big idea. The ergonomic benefit, again, is going to be real. You can stream anything that is currently on a video monitor, could be streamed into smart glasses. Of course, that can. The latency is quite low, right? We're talking like 50, 80 millisecond latencies when you really optimize like the Wi-Fi channels that you're on and you know, all the little tricks associated with that. And then the targeting UI itself is so intuitive. The way the demo goes for a lot of folks that have never tried this before, we ask you to try to actually align stuff in 3D first. And it's very intuitive. And then we actually take the headset off, go back to the conventional way. And you know, obviously it depends on people's level of experience, but what is starting to happen in the cases that we're doing are people they're executing in 3D first. They're using the 2D as a check thereafter. Here you see the scope feed brought in as well, right? Virtual monitors, whatever size you want, wherever you want it. And so a lot of times, like, we got questions about this stuff like, hey, would you be able to do this? Is that possible? Could we integrate that? What about this? The answer to all this stuff is yes. It's just a matter of time, where it is in our roadmap, how we prioritize stuff, and who we're working with. And at this stage, you know, we're growing our team. We just got the FDA clearances for you know, real intraoperative use. So we're excited about it, excited to be here and just share this stuff with you guys. And anybody that would want to work on this and push the frontier, please let us know.